Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all for being here with me. I know that productivity in pandemic just looks different. And so every time that people give grace, space, and time to be with me in a space of community and conversation with me, I hold it here because I know there are 1,000 things that are clamoring for your attention. So I want to thank Bonnie, thank Rosie, thank Jenny, for all of you for being here with me. This is really wonderful. So to start, why don't we just drop it in the chat? Names, please let us know your businesses, because I think one of the magical things about Grow is, women supporting women. I told Jennifer, I loved her shirt, that this is a space where we get to shout out our businesses, to talk about our businesses, so that we can support one another. So in the chat, please, if you want, I will warm it up here too. Please list your website, list your website to be, what you hope the name will be. If you've already bought the domain and there's nothing there, list it there. If you're don't have a website, if you're on LinkedIn, list your LinkedIn there so that we can all connect. I want to invite us to turn our cameras on if you're able, understanding that we all know that our sacred spaces have become our conference rooms. So for some of you, this might be your lunch lady season, because it's over lunch. You might be feeding blessings in your life, and that's all right. You can come as you are, but I think there's just something powerful in setting with community for us to be able to see one another as we have conversation, because this will not be a lecture. This will be a conversation. So welcome. Thank you. Please, for founders that are joining us, welcome. We are just dropping it like it's hot in the chat, sharing our names, your businesses, your LinkedIn, if you have a website, whatever we could know so that we can support the fellow women that we see on this call, that would be awesome. So a little bit about me. Shannon Cohen Inc. is a consultancy that specializes in work that lives at the intersection of emotional intelligence, psychological safety, and equity. And we've been able to serve quite a few clients. I love to say that we are headquartered in West Michigan, but we think globally, we think nationally, and I love that aspect of what we do. I also own a greeting card company that I started 4 years ago, and it's in retailers across the country. I'm an author, I'm a podcaster, and at the end of the day, I love seeing women win. I am a champion of women. I have the honor of serving on the board of directors for Grow. And my heart beats for women and the difficult things that we carry behind our titles, our smiles, and our roles. I often think like, yo, we are dope. And if we have all of this that we carry and we still show up like fire, imagine what we are able to do when we are holistically well, head, heart, and hands. And so that is what my life's work is dedicated to, is making sure that uplifting women and creating spaces, products, and experiences that uplift women. So I'm really excited to be in this space with all of you. And at the end of the day, I think that we get some of the greatest glimpses of purpose when we were children. And so if I could take you back to 8-year-old Shan, which is how old I was in this photo, I've always known that encouragement was my superpower. And so in anything that I do, you will see that embedded in it. So here's what I know. We may be all right as female founders, as women founders, as founders in general. I want to make sure I'm gender, I'm not saying that everyone on this call ascribes to a particular gender, but we may be all right, but none of us are fine. This was an article I read this week, and it was in Rolling Stone magazine, and it said coronavirus is killing the working mother. I don't know if any of you have seen this photo, but this is often our lived reality. I think even before we muted ourselves, I heard someone with some blessings in the background, and I call them blessings because I think right now, a lot of the depictions of what it looks like to be parenting in pandemic is that it's problematic. And I want to just separate that's not true. Our children are not problems. So does anybody else's conference room look like this right now? Let me know there in the chat. This is real, that we are juggling it all, right? We are all the R's, right? We are juggling so many things at the same time, so many hats at the same time. And when I look at this picture, I think one of the things that I'm reminded of specifically is that as women, we know how to function when the bottom is falling out of our lives. I think that's one of the magical aspects of women is that we are naturally, typically really good multitaskers. But I think the difference is it feels like the bottom fell out of every area of our lives and all at the same time, right? So, the real reality of things is that many of us have lost the connections that we had to community support, right? So we are distanced from, elders in our lives. We are distanced from caregivers. For many of us, we didn't have the summer camp or summer options that we had before. We've gone to, and I love that you all are letting me know in the chat, have you been to birthday parties by Zoom, right? I've been to funerals by Zoom, unfortunately. We are doing more digitally than we ever have before. So we've lost some of those supports. We're also in the midst of racial unrest and ways that we've never seen it. And that is also an impact to business, because more than ever, we are seeing end users, stakeholders, and investors asking us different questions about our business, about supplier diversity, than has ever been asked before. I've never seen so many organizations and institutions that have had equity statements like we had before. So that's not just something for larger businesses to consider, that's something for us to consider as well. And in the midst of all of that, I think for a lot of us, we would say that our computers right now, your cell phone might be more charged than you are, that the devices that you carry may be more charged than you are, that we are physically exhausted, that even just doing the things that we were doing normally when before, just to get up, to shower, to do our hair, lo and behold, to put on makeup or whatever else you used to do, those things just feel like our batteries just drain faster, right? I have a 6-year-old son, and when he runs, he has a soccer game that he likes, and I could be at 87% energy on my phone. And once he plays it for like 20 minutes, I'm down to 32%. And I feel like that's what life is like, right? Our batteries are just draining faster. And so this is the environment. This is the environmental landscape within which we are either birthing, scaling, reimagining, or pivoting our businesses. Does anybody right there, I just want to pause, is there, I saw that Kristen put, yes, our office is not being open due to COVID. Does anyone else want to add any condition that's happening in your environment that we haven't listed that is a real reality for you right now? And you can unmute yourself at this time or put it in the chat, whatever feels good to your soul. But what other conditions are you experiencing that is impacting the design, implementation, marketing, or execution of your business?
Well, I think for me, it is that same, we're all home-based businesses, so that really didn't change, but it's the connection between my team that is crucial for me to keep my culture going. And we're an agency, full service agency, but we are very faith-based and family-based. So I can connect with my team, because I can't see them in person, some I can, but that's been a bit of a struggle in the beginning, but now we're kind of working it out. But it's very important to me to put my team ahead of my clients. And so balancing my family, my team, and my clients is a bit tricky at times. And I have 2 businesses, so.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I think, one of the things, I just put that in the chat, is how do we navigate being distanced and not disconnected, especially with staff teams. I think that one of the things that we're navigating, and it's something that I see very often, is we're navigating both brand and culture. So brand is what our organizations are to our external stakeholders, end users outside of our organizations. And we're trying to say, like, we're still here, we're fine, like we're as a matter of fact, this is how we can solve your problems even in pandemic. But then there's this piece of culture where things have changed even behind the veil and under the hood of our organizations, and it's figuring out how to navigate that. So one of my staff members lives in Lansing and relocated to be closer to family because of all of these conditions. And so, it's that constant piece of how do we do business? How are we working on team projects? And we have this geographical, this space. So I totally appreciate you for sharing that. Yeah. So in the spirit of collective wisdom sharing, And as you thought about what would make you take time from your full plate, from all that is in front of you, all that is swirling around in your heart, head, and mind, all of the fires that you've put out today already, and then all of the fires and issues that need your attention when you leave this call. What brought you to this call today? And specifically, I thought that we could all answer this prompt. I need space to blank. So this is a check-in. You know, I think I have stopped asking people, how are you? Because I don't want them to give me a fake I'm fine. So I try to think of questions that really give us a chance to, one, check in with ourselves, because it's very easy to go, and do, and not even be aware. And I think that there's often a lot of times as business owners where we are so busy solving problems that we don't ask ourselves, how are we? We don't give ourselves that grace and space to do internal diagnostic assessment. So in the chat there, what do you need? Either from this conversation, what do you need space to, just in general? Take a minute and ask yourself, what do you need space to? Yeah.
And as those comments come up, Shannon, I'll go ahead and share them. But somebody said they need space to receive. I think that's beautiful. Space to recharge.
Mm-hmm.
To just be. Breathe and reconnect. I think we have a theme going here. Imagining the possibilities. To not know the answers. To revive. To breathe. To connect with other business owners and to share common challenges. Cross-pollinate ideas with others. Shannon, that's fantastic. Katie says, I need space to work. I feel like I can't focus on work when I actually get time. I'm so tired. I think with the exhaustion is something that we're all feeling. And again, focusing on my relationship with myself. This downtime, I think you could agree, Shannon, this gives you a lot of time within your head space to figure things out. And we're seeing a lot of that with the comments.
Thank you for reading those, Jennifer. I appreciate you all for sharing that so honestly. And then for those that are still processing, this might be the first time someone has actually asked a question that centered you. But I think that's one of the gifts that we can give ourselves as founders every day. We ask questions that center others, whether it's our customers, our clients, our staff teams, our families, community, that I think we need at least one moment in the day where we ask questions that center us, and that's a healing practice. But that's like a little preview of the end of the presentation, but that's good for our souls right now. But this is something that I truly believe. I think the best gift that any other woman can give you is the benefit of her wisdom without the pain. And I think that is one of the reasons why in my heart, I imagined this. I was sharing this with Rosie as a healing and wisdom circle, not a Shannon show, because for everything I think I know, I promise y'all there are 1,000 things I am still questioning, wondering, figuring out, tripping over. And so I think that there's wisdom that we all have that we've curated, especially in the last 5 or 6 months, that we can share with one another. So I really do think that this graphic speaks to me, right? It felt like the end of the world, right? But I think there's some wisdom we've gained through the end of the world. We are still standing, and that means that there's still, as long as there's breath in our body, there's a chance to redo, to reimagine, to recharge, like someone said, and to restart. So I envision this being a space of us being stronger together. I have some prompts for us to think about. I am going to share some examples of ways that I have had to be innovative in uncertainty to monetize some of our work. And I welcome you to share, even if it's something you're thinking about. Because I think a lot of times as founders, we have ideas and then we get afraid to share them with other people because we don't know if they're going to work out. But having research and development or R&D teams and ideas is not just something for the Apples and Googles of the world. It's something for us too. And so whenever you see this graphic, Jenny's going to help lead us in that kind of conversation like she just did. And my hope and my prayer is that wherever you've been feeling like this first graphic, where all the ideas are just feeling tangled up, that through this healing circle, they'll start to slowly unravel and you'll be able to have some clarity around some of the things that you're thinking through the wisdom that you get from other women. I think the last thing before we get into group conversation is I want everyone to feel safe in this space, to sort, safe to unpack, to release, to address, and to heal. because everyone's business, some businesses have had to close their doors indefinitely. Some businesses have closed their doors altogether. Some of us are still stuck in like mourning what we had before March 9th, which March 9th for me is when COVID got real. So I know that we all have that date, but March 9th was like, you're homeschooling and you're working. And specifically on the retail side of our business, all but 2 of the stores that we have products in across the country closed. And so March 9th was my D-Day. And so I just want to make sure that folks feel like this is not the space where you have to be, have veneers or the fake I'm fine. But even if things are not going well and you don't know what the pivot is, all you can see is the problem. Like, it's okay to be in that space too. So to make sure that we feel safe there, I just wanted to open with the community agreement. My ask is going to be, I know that some of us know one another outside of this call. And I know that often as business owners, people want to hear your wins. They don't want to hear your struggles. But like one of my mentors always says, as a business owner, on any given day, you are dealing with more that's going wrong in your business than you are what's going right. And so I just want to remind us, I'm going to ask that whatever we talk about in this space, that we will hold each other in that space. So this is our first prompt. This is my son, and he said something about me this week that literally almost brought me to tears, and I want to use it as a prompt for us. So I was on a Zoom call in my conference room, AKA the kitchen, because it was also lunch lady time. So I was cooking lunch while being on this call, and I was introducing myself, and my son, who he loves to make cameos. I don't know if there are any other parents on the call who your children love to make cameos on your calls, but he decided he was going to make this cameo. And he says, so I'm introducing myself, and he says, and oh yeah, by the way, she's also an inventor. I looked at this child, I was like, I'm an inventor. And there is something so humbling when your children call out purpose and greatness in you that you don't even ascribe to yourself. So in true mama form, I'm trying to shoo this child off this call and keep myself from crying on this call because I'm like, he just called me an inventor. But when I thought about that, I was like, can you give yourself credit? And so to that end, in the chat, how many of you have ever made one of your best meals from leftovers in the house? Just show of hands, high fives. That's me in the chat. Like, you knew you needed to go grocery shopping, but you were able to make a meal that somebody, even if it's just you, enjoyed, and it was from literally leftovers. You did a makeover with leftovers from your house. Okay, I'm seeing that show up in the chat. How many of you have ever made a homemade Halloween costume for your children or for a family member, right? Or for yourself, right? Yes. I love that grilled cheese story. Yes. Right? How many of you are Pinterest? Like, you look at something on Pinterest and you made it better than it was on Pinterest, right? I want us to see that title of inventor is not, I think often as women, we've always had to make $1 out of 15 cents. And that's what I took from my son. And so I think as we think about how to be innovative in uncertainty, we have to pull out our receipts that we've always had to make do with little. We've always had to be creative with what we had. We've always had to look at what was in our hands and how can I do something with what's in my hands. And so when my son said that to me, I realized that in some ways, if I'm going to be innovative, I need to put down self-doubt and to imagine what was possible. And so in our first Stronger Together moment, my revelation this week, and I'm still, even to say it to you all, there is a little bit of shaking as I say it. But fill in this statement, I am what? When you think about the fact that you've seen uncertainty before, you've had the bottom fall out of your life before, you've had to deal with complex realities before, you've had to build something from nothing before. So maybe your word is not inventor, but I want you to put into the chat that bold word that almost makes you shake when you say it. but you're ready to own it. Like, I am blank. I love it. Resilient. I'm going to step out the way because I know, Jenny.
Oh, fearless, creative, strong, leader, strong again.
Yeah. When we remember these things about ourselves, it gives us fuel to imagine possibilities. And I think that before we talk, that's what innovation is. It is the fuel to explore the art of the possible. That's what I imagine when I think of innovation. And so we've all done it. And so I think the first thing that we have to do is start where you are with what you know and what you have. When we think about, forgive me, Apple, if y'all are on here, but I'm an Android user by phone, but everything else is Apple, but I am an Android phone user. I'm like, Apple gets us buying these new phones with just making minor tweaks with what they have, what they know, and where they are. I mean, some of you have the Apple 10 or the Apple, I think, what is it? The iPhone 11 just came out. That just shows how totally off the grid about iPhones I am. But they just make minor tweaks and put it out like it's the thing you gotta have. And for $500, you have to have it, right? And so I think those same things that we value in the companies that we use, we have is starting where you are with what you know and with what you have. I was reminded of something that I tweeted, a while ago, but I keep it close to me. Just take a minute and do a 30-second scan of what's around you. Maybe what's in your hand, what's around you. I'm looking at my water bottle. I'm looking at books around my home. I'm looking at my ceiling fan. And the truth is that right now we're either holding, sitting in, we drive, we're using computers, we're using Zoom. Like, has anybody checked out what has happened to Zoom stock since March, right? We're using something that started in the imagination of someone else. And we invested in someone's dream to be where it is today. And so why not take a chance on us? And so I want you to think about that. Like, you are the first angel investor that your dream is ever going to see. And reminding ourselves who we are is the key, I think, first to innovation. So I want to give an example, and then I'm going to open it up for some examples from the group, because I know that as I'm asking for some open sharing from the group, I want to share this as well. So when March 9th happened, up until that time, my business strategy for growing the greeting card side of our business was with wholesale retail partnerships. So although all of the cards are available on our website, if you think about how you shop for cards, it's like, oh snap, somebody's birthday is coming up. Let me run to Walgreens or let me run to Target. Let me grab this card really quickly. It's not like, 3 weeks in advance. Shannon sells cards, so let me go to shannoncohen.com and buy these cards. So because of that, our model was largely based on wholesale retail partnerships with gift shops, boutiques, hospital gift shops, hotel gift shops, and bookstores and the like. And so when March 9th happened, and by executive order, all of, we went into quarantine. All of the stores that we were in, but 2, I'm talking about across 7 states, all but 2 closed. All but 2. The 2 that stayed open were actually here, was Bridge Street Market and Horrocks. But if you know anything about, if you even look at your own shopping trends from that time, people were like getting, unless you were selling bathroom tissue, Lysol, Clorox, bleach, vinegar, like any of that, people were not checking for greeting cards when they went to the grocery store. It was like essential needs. And so immediately we were just, that whole line of the business went away. And I remember I was sharing with you all that we have 2 team members on our staff and then 2 that are contractual. And so I remember one of them asking me, like, are you going to close? Like, what does this mean? And I remember saying to her, like, no, like, are you laying people off or like what's happening? And I was like, no. I said, we're going to figure it out. Now, y'all, I didn't know how we were going to figure it out. But I remember saying, like, we're going to figure it out on our own innovation. And I think, on our own innovation, we will figure it out. And So remember, we said we have to start with where we are with what we have. And so I started to think about, like, we have to change our business model suddenly. So this is one thing I do, and I recommend it. I keep an innovation folder. I think that, and I know this gets a little bit ahead, but I think sometimes as business owners, as founders, we get ideas that we can't act on because we don't have the capacity at the time. And so a few months ago, I had talked to my husband. I'm like, yeah, I've been thinking about a stationary subscription service. And he was like, you don't have the capacity. And I remember thinking, but I just kind of put it in my pocket, thinking that there may be a time I might need to use it. So after I got done kind of being like, what just happened? And it just happened overnight. And all of the feelings that came with that, I pulled out that innovation folder and I realized that I started to ask myself this question. People still need cars. I just have to reimagine how we're solving their problem. And I found the niche in we can solve people's problems because, one, we're distanced and we don't want to be disconnected. Now we're celebrating birthdays by Zoom. We're driving by people's houses and honking and waving and dropping off gifts. And so I said, what if we use our own site? We have a direct portal and we just remove the intermediary. And so on March 23rd, we launched this idea that had already been incubating in this folder, but we had never put it out into the market because we just didn't know if it would work. And what we started to do is we called it our affirmation service. So what we ended up doing is that if you were our client, you could go on our site. You could choose what the situation was, which for a lot of people, it was sympathy. People were losing people to COVID, loved ones, or they were unable to get to funerals, those types of things. And so you select the card. All you had to do was select it. And we would pick the card. We would pin the message. I love handwriting. I've always had really great handwriting. I've always loved calligraphy. So we would handwrite the message and we would ship it for you. So not only were we meeting a demand in the market because of isolation and the impact of quarantine to this new concept of social distancing, but we wanted to make it as easy as possible because we knew people's hearts and heads were heavy. And we made the price $6. It was just $1 in addition to what they would pay in the stores. And we took the work off of their plate. We were like, we let you care, we do the work. And let me go back. And it went viral. And the media started picking it up, not just here in Grand Rapids, but somebody sent me an article. It was like, it was on the news in North Carolina because people at that time, what we also learned, which is a residual, is that the media wanted good feel stories because there was so much doom and gloom in the media. And we ended up selling more in 5 months. We almost pretty much sold in 5 months, which was what we did in a year last year. And so I share that with you all as an example of starting with what you have, where you are. And I'll tell you something else that this did. In the greeting card industry, when you're in most retail stores, you typically lose 50%, for being in that store. So we were able to reclaim the 50% that we normally have to pay to retailers to be in the store into the business to be able to reimagine new possibilities. So I just want to pause there and say, what's in your hand? Let's go back to this. You're the first angel investor your dream will ever see. And how were you, and feel free to unmute yourself, what are you thinking about? How can you start with where you are, what you know, and what you have to reintroduce either a good, a service, or a product to the market, but just in a new way? How can we be thought partners with you as you're imagining new possibilities?
I'll start if you want me to. I have 2 companies. I have a full service marketing firm, but I'm also an artist. So all my fine art fairs canceled, right? So I also run a marketing firm, so I understand I need to market myself as an artist. So boosting ads, putting ads out there, and really relying on online sales. So I'm also very faith-based. So because I've been in the industry of painting and fine arts for 5 years, I've built a bit of a following and a brand. So fine art fairs all canceled, and I get a call from somebody who lives on the lake in Illinois who wants an 8-foot by 6-foot custom piece. So that gave me back about a quarter of what we're losing, but it gave me momentum to push forward. And instead of being, tie my hands, sit in my seat, okay, I can't do my fine art fairs. No, put my big girl pants on. How do I sell paintings? Because my paintings not only bless me, they bless others. So it's just, both of my businesses are very faith-based and give back to community and nonprofits. But so it's very crucial to me to make sure that I'm utilizing my gifts and talents wherever God sees fit. And in order to do that, I need to reassess, reallocate, and relook at how both my businesses are working and not working, and know that there's a better step, but I have to take that step forward. I have to think out of the box. I need to be creative, and I need to be connected. So that was just a whole really great story out of that. But what that one painting has done for me is spur so many other hopes and dreams. And I'm now going to make this innovation folder, which I can't wait for all the crazy ideas to be put down in one place, because I am a creative, so things are everywhere.
I love that. I took so many notes from that. I put into the chat there that custom curation, guess what? Your audience still loves you. And they love you more than they ever did before, because I think that we're starting to find that we think about yourself. You ride harder for the brands that you support even more now than you maybe did before. So remember that your audience is still riding with you. Your target audience is still riding with you. So reassess and reallocate what's working, what's not working, mourn over what's not working, and what you may have to release. But when you release, you give yourself room to receive more and be connected. I find myself sharing stories, not just about products, but about thoughts and what's going on in my mind, what's going on in our family. I'm telling more lifestyle stories, even as I'm talking about goods, products, or services that we do. So think about that as your businesses. How can you incorporate? I know that for some of us, we were taught like my business and my life. And now, y'all, the bottom fell out. So we need to combine it all. How can I use lifestyle stories to connect in a deeper way to my audience? People want to know that.
I'm going to interject for a moment, because I think what Susan said was really poignant. And there may be others who are on the line that it may not come so easily, that thought process of being open to those opportunities. My question to you, Shannon, you talked about that, is, the struggle of trying to gain new customers or new clients, and then also kind of catering to the people that are who already have your back. And so how do you find balance in that? Because, some are trying to stay afloat with their business, and you do want to bring in more, but again, you do want to remember those who have been supportive of you through this time.
Absolutely. I feel like this couldn't have been the more perfect setup to this next conversation, which is what is on your playlist. I think that for me, if you all remember with my bottom fell out, it's because we had one core way we were doing business, which was that intermediary, that wholesale retail partnership way. And we were still supportive of those companies that closed doors indefinitely, to reopening, to deciding like, I don't know if I can bounce back. Like, we were still having conversations with those partners. It wasn't because we could feel it, like there was a relationship there. But I think one of the things that helps to inspire us is that sometimes when the bottom is falling out of the way you've always done something, you have to infuse new ways of seeing the world around you. So growing up where I grew up in the city of Detroit, and I took the bus. And I'll never forget that I would often do the bus stop in one direction, because the bus would always come from this direction at my high school. And the bus driver would actually pass by our high school if it was more than 50 kids waiting to get on the bus, because he just didn't feel like being bothered. So I remember one day some friends and I decided we're going to cross the street. We're going to take the bus in the opposite direction up 3 exits. And then we're going to come back down across the street on the other side and come back past our school so we could ride the bus. And we got on the bus. So I think part of it is sometimes we have to do minor tweaks and adjustments to reimagine what's possible and to get unstuck. And so one of the ways that I do that is I ask, what's on my playlist? And here's something that I think everyone on our call should think about is how are you feeding the innovator in you? So every day, for me specifically, whether it's through a podcast, it could be through a video, it could be through looking at somebody's Instagram feed that I really love, it could be through Audible books, which is more of my way now with my son being home, it could be through play or through listening to music while I'm walking. I consume content every day that fits one of these three buckets. It either has to be instructional, inspirational, or aspirational. Instructional, inspirational, and aspirational. Because here's what I know. I cannot innovate, imagine, and create from an empty well. And I realize that now I don't have the same time for stillness. So I need to get information on the go. So for example, this morning I listened to something aspirational. I love, is it Better with Paul? I'm going to put it in the chat. And I think it's Better with Paul is the podcast. It is Paul Carrick Brunson. I love his podcast. Today he had on his podcast the marketing genius behind Airbnb, Serena Williams. She's the marketer to all of these great people. And she was a mama. And she's worked for TLC, MTV, Discovery. I loved it. It was so good. And I listened to that this morning while I was getting dressed. So instructional, inspirational, and aspirational. Every day I do that so that I'm not as creative as folks maybe think I am, but I'm a student and I do something that Arlen Hamilton talked about. She said, whenever I'm insecure, I feed my insecurity with information. And I think that is something that I really aim to do as a business owner is when I don't know something or I'm uncertain about something or I'm trying to pivot in an area, I'm becoming a student in that area so that I can grow stronger, better, and wiser. So I'm curious, what has been on your playlist? What are you listening to, watching, seeing that is giving you life lately?
Well, I'm going to start and I'm just going to say your podcast, Shannon. I know that for those of you who have not listened to her podcast, what I love about it is because of the fact you are conscious of people's time. So it is challenging nowadays to carve out an hour to listen to an entire podcast. Yours is very direct, inspirational. It feeds me when I need it. And I think those are the types of podcasts that now when we're experiencing the Zoom exhaustion or the, various go-to webinar exhaustion, it allows you to kind of breathe and, take it to you on the go as you take your morning walk or as you're having your morning coffee. It's short enough, but it has a lot of substance.
I love what you said, Jenny. I think it's as you go. I know for me, I'm a morning, I don't know if anybody has discovered this about yourself, but I'm a morning girl. Like I've been up since 5, but probably like this is towards the end of my workday. Like 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. is like Shannon Gold. Try to ask me to make decisions after 6 o'clock. And if it's more than like Brussels sprouts or broccoli, like I'm no good. And I'm learning that about myself. So when I wake up in the morning and I might be responding to emails, that's when I listen to the Better with Paul podcast. I'm learning myself in this new season. And I know that there's some things that I have to do when my family is asleep. And there's things I can do when they're awake. There's things when I can do with my son on lunch when we're walking. So I love how you said, as you go. Anyone else, whether that's in the chat, somebody we haven't heard from yet, anyone else if it's music that you're listening to. I know that Beyonce just dropped, Black is King, and I've heard people talking about the artistry and the imagery. I haven't watched it yet, but that's been inspiring. There could be songs that you listen to. There could be folks that you follow on Instagram that you love how they talk about their products or what they do. I'm just curious. What are you doing to feed your soul, to feed the innovator in you? Yep, I see that. Listening to Mandisa. Yes, it could be music.
It looks like we're getting a lot of comments. I would love if Rosie, if there's a way to kind of, as you pass this along, to maybe pass the part of the chat as well with some of these suggestions. I think that'd be very useful to our participants today. But of course, Shannon's podcast, Tough Skin, Soft Heart. LaShonda suggested some bossed up music, Maverick City music. Never heard of that, but I will give it a shot. Reading Keep Your Love On. And LaShonda, I don't know if you have the author for that book. That'd be great to share too. Georgia listens to Mendice every day to get uplifted. Oh, I love it. We've got some YouTuber suggestions too. Aaron on Demand, top 3 productivity activity. And Katie, I feel you. It's hard not to watch the news right now. So podcasting is fantastic as well. And there are a slew of TED Talks that people are recommending. Simon Sinek, his TED Talk is incredible. I think he has a couple actually out there right now. Rory Vanden, personal branding is another one somebody's suggesting. Tabitha Brown, I've heard good things about her too. Those are the short 1 to 3 minute videos, I believe, on YouTube that you can check out. And everybody loves a little Brene Brown in their life, don't they? So these are great suggestions. And Rosie, if you can keep track of that and we can share that, then all of us will be, being fed in a variety of ways.
I love it. I love it. I love the list that everyone has been sharing, from music to podcasts to books to authors to videos that we're watching. I think it's important to feed our souls, because when we get those things, then they give us templates that we can use to fuel our own creativity and to think about as a business owner. And I think this is something that we're all thinking about. How are you telling your story in this dispensation of time? I think that that's the magic. When you think about how are you telling your story. And I heard someone today, there's a comedian I like to follow. He's on Instagram, it's Kev on Stage, but he wrote a letter today I saw it today, so he's my quick one too. He posted a video just using his phone as if he was talking to the 2012 version of himself. And he was going back to a time when he was working for Boeing and he hated it and he wanted to do comedy full time. And he was looking at all of these comedians that he admired. And he's like, so he's in his today talking to his former self. And he's like, I know you hate your job. You fall asleep in work meetings because you want to write scripts, and I want to let you know, hang in there. Like, all of the artists that you were admiring before, you're going to work with them. And remember when you were in that 2-bedroom house, look now. And so he's spanning his houses overlooking LA and with this pool, he's like, you're going to make it. And then in classic Kev on Stage way, he was like, but you didn't lose any weight. He's like, you still have this dad body, but everything else, like, you're killing the game. And it was so amazing to see him talk about, to use, this sense of humor to talk about when he was in a dry space and that this space of plenty was coming. And so I just think when things like that speak to me, when they bless me, I save them. I just kind of click the down arrow on Instagram and I just save that as fuel for me on the days where I feel low, on the days where I need to talk to my future self and keep her encouraged. I do that all the time. And so I love that each of you are creating this portfolio of things that are instructional, because there's always something for us to learn as founders. We're always learning and growing. Things that are inspirational, things that just inspire you to keep your head up and to keep going, and things that are aspirational, that you get these glimpses of the next level you, and that you're keeping that. Okay, 12:48, and I want us to be able to get to questions. I think the last thing that I wanted to encourage us around is just remembering that our health is worth slowing down for. And I think that's really something that's important to do, is to find ways, because I think if we're not careful, especially as founders, we can find our lives completely consumed with our work and the work of our hands. And each of us is greater than the work of our hands. And so, just that reminder to be good to yourself, to feed yourself holistically as a founder. So last week, was it last week? we took 2 days away, like it was Sunday to a Wednesday. It was short. We took, a few days away as a family, and I was nervous to get away because we have some big things upcoming. And I was like, I don't have time to get away. I can't get away. But I really knew that I was on E. I was scraping the bottom of the barrel. And all we did was literally go to the beach from like the time after breakfast until just before sunset. And we played as a family. We laughed. It was nothing glamorous. We were socially distancing. We packed lunch. But you all so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were leaving. And I got up before anybody else in my family, and I went and just sat out by the sand. And there in that quiet, I just started to journal about some things, and I got a download about something that I wanted to implement in the business that I had been stuck about. And I think it was honestly because I had cleared the clutter. And I had given myself some grace and space to just restore my soul. And so I think I just want to end with that as well, that we are a system, we're spirit, soul, body. And sometimes if you're stuck, I think sometimes it could be a reminder that you still need play, you still need community, you still need days where you get to show up and be nothing to nobody. And then sometimes it's on the other side of rest that the aha comes. Mm-hmm. So I'm including all of my contact information here because I know there may be some questions or things that folks may have on their hearts that you may not want to ask out loud. But I also see some private messages in the chat. Shout out to fellow Detroit girls on our call. But I just want to open it up the floor for questions. If there's something you want to ask, not just of me, but you have, I think it's 25 of us. So you have 25 difference makers on this call that could have the answer to what you might be struggling with, that we can be a resource to one another in the last 10 minutes that we have.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you so much for allowing us to be on here. I'm very honored to be here and be a part of this today. I wanted to ask about marketing. Is there anyone on the line who has had a good marketing experience, and with the over inundation of so much coming your way or coming my way, doing different things? I put on there that I'm paid for one thing, but I have a passion for the other part which is the nonprofit of portion. So as a licensed consultant, I have clients that are virtually in around the world, but the passion is to help rescue domestic violence and human trafficking victims. So I want to be able to get a good marketing, I hate the word marketing strategy, or a marketing guide, or someone that can help really put the whole thing together so it can make better sense and that elevator speech can come together. Because right now I feel with so many different things or different aspects of our business that it needs a focus. So if you have a good marketing strategist or someone that I can contact, to bring on to do that, or have that conversation with, possibly employed to, take on this piece. I'm looking locally as well. There's many classes and things, but I want someone that has a niche on it. And I was looking at yours, and it looks really good. So that's my question.
So I guess my question back, and please help me, is it Georgia?
It's Georgia. I put it in there. It sounds like the state.
Georgia, thank you for that. So Georgia, what do you imagine? What is the end goal? Do you want to use your marketing? Who is the target audience? Because I think how you would talk to survivors is different from how you're going to talk to funders, which is going to be different. So different stakeholder groups. So what stakeholder group are you most ready to begin to build a relationship through marketing with?
I believe that would be the licensed consultant part, where the funding would come through. And because I pretty much volunteer, I work with the DPD and with the state through the domestic violence portion and human trafficking. That's not, that part I feel comfortable with. It's the other part, the other licensed consultant piece where I want to be able to say, here's my card and this is what this is what we offer, and have that as I don't know, I have this idea that the business portion of it will help, donate into the passion of it. And it was easier in ministry when I was in ministry, but it's different, you just give in ministry, right? But in this portion, I'm doing more work where we're doing more work, our team. So we want to be able to do that. So that side more than the philanthropist side.
If I'm understanding, Georgia, I want to first share that there are a lot of women in the chat that are like giving you so many sources that are there. But I think I want to offer this. I think that before you hire someone, obtaining as much clarity as you can about your voice in the market is critical, because you have, even though you're in the domestic violence support, survivor support space, you have a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So think about chicken, right? Like, y'all remember when Popeyes and Chick-fil-A had that little chicken beef going on, and Popeyes came out with the sandwich and Chick-fil-A was like, but we're OGs when it comes to the chicken sandwich. Like, it was this whole thing. And I remember there was, if any of you remember, there was this point when Popeyes kind of shot a cheap shot at Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A like clapped back in this classic way. But I think part of it is knowing, what is my secret sauce? What is my competitive advantage in the marketplace? What do I do really, really, really well? And I think that that's not just something that you can get from yourself. I think that's something that you also have to survey the people that have supported your work. Even when it was in the ministry phase, when I started Tough Skin Soft Heart, it was a free blog. It was free. It was not something I ever imagined monetizing the way I do today.
Okay.
But I never forget that when I did want to switch, I put out a Google survey on my own Facebook. Like, I didn't have a website at the time. And I was going through Spring GR at the time, actually. So I guess I did have a website, but it was not what it is today. And I started asking people, why do you love the brand? Why do you love this? Why do you support it? Why do you read the blog? And I received over 100 responses.
Okay.
And it was the responses of my end users that helped me to figure out who my target audience was and what they love about the brand. And that started to shape how we market. And so I think that if there are some ways that you can get, even if you choose to hire someone, I think there are some ways that you can start to do that process before you pay, because a really like good marketers are not going to be cheap. Right. And I think that if you can get some clarity around your voice and how you want your voice to appear in the market, and what people love about the brand to date, then that may be a good launch pad for what you're imagining. And that's something that I think all of us have to do. And there's a lot of ways that you can freely do that right now, even before you start to pay someone. As a matter of fact, what I would recommend is that you use those ways to do it on your own, so that by the time when you are ready to vet maybe someone, external talent to support you, you can find someone that is in the best alignment with your values and your values proposition.
And this is a beautiful way that we're closing this up, in the fact that we have this connection right now that Grow continuously provides to all of its participants. And Shannon, I know you are a busy lady, so thank you for taking the time to share your light with all of us and your feedback. And I think that we're walking away with a lot to think about and a lot to digest and to take time to fully grasp, because it's a lot. And it's nice to know that we can all do this together too. So any final thoughts, Shannon, as far as, what you want people to take away from this moment together?
I just want to thank all of you for being on the call with me. It was so good to see you. I think this is the kind of this is the kind of community where magic happens, especially amongst women founders. I think that iron sharpens iron, and we need safe spaces to cross-pollinate ideas and to be honest about what's not working, right? Just to be able to talk about like, okay, this is not working, or I'm not quite sure how to revive this. And I'm just grateful that Grow created this space. Please keep taking advantage of Grow and the business ecosystem that we have here in the city, because I think that's the last thing I'll leave, is that you don't have to walk this journey alone. Trust me, there are going to be some aspects of business ownership only you can do, but there are many, many more that you can actually have community support as you are leading, loving, and serving. So thank you all for being in this space with me.